What is up, everybody? Welcome back again to another episode of Say What? Barstool Parlay. As always, guys, make sure to share, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you know when content is coming out. All right, let's get into this disaster. Let's talk about this absolute bullshit. It's pretty short story, guys. It's a pretty short story. Jerry comes out, says the Cowboys are going all in. They're going all in this year. I really hope you guys didn't believe that. I really hope you didn't believe that. And day one of free agency was the proof. They're not going all in. They're going to stick with the same plan that they've always stuck with. Because despite what Jerry likes to say and likes to pretend, Jerry no longer has his hands on the control. It's Catboy. Stephen Jones, Catboy, has his hands on the controls, and he will never pay free agent money for anybody at any time. Ever. Never going to happen. So, you got to think about what actually happened here, guys. Let's get the clarity on what actually happened. The Cowboys were never going all in. What the Cowboys were doing was they retained a lame duck head coach who's literally by default going to not be part of the team at the end of the year because his contract's going to expire. He's no longer a Dallas Cowboy after the season. So you have a lame duck head coach. You're bringing back the same quarterback. You're bringing back most of the same defensive pieces. You lost your defensive coordinator. Jerry had to find a way to spin this. He had to find a way to, how can we run it back and still sell the brand, still have that optimism about the team that we're going to the Super Bowl every year. How do I sell that with McCarthy and Dak and the same defensive pieces and the same offensive work? How do I sell that coming back? How do I sell that we're not going to do anything differently and things are going to change? How do I excite the fan base? How do I sell that? And he got all of you back on his side. He got all of you believing again by lying, saying that he's going all in. Which, if you really think about it, this is what Jerry's great at. Jerry's great with words. All in, to us, means something different than it does to them. All in is vague. All in could mean anything. To them, finding a 7th round steal at defensive tackle in the draft could be all in. To us, all in is signing a big name free agent, or a couple of them. Barkley, Patrick Queen, maybe Levante David, a big name guy that's floating out there. That would be going all in to us. Going and getting big name guys, making a big headline trade. That's not what Dallas does. And then when we all sit there and call him a liar, Jerry can say, well, I never said all in meant that I was going to get all these big name free agents and make these trades. That's not what I said. He set us up, leading us to believe one thing with plausible deniability on the back. That's what happened. They were never going all in. Any of you Cowboys fans who thought that the Cowboys were going all in, was never going to happen. You should have never got your hopes up. You know how this organization operates. Honestly, shame on you for getting your hopes up. But let's break this down. So last year in free agency, Cowboys didn't really make any free agent moves for the most part. No big name guys, but they made a lot of trade moves. They got Stephon Gilmore. They got Brandon Cooks. Both of them I thought were great pickups. I still think they're great pickups. It took a while to figure out what was going on and try to get Cooks involved in the offense, but I think they finally figured out his role, figured out how to get him involved. That made us feel like, oh, Cowboys are going all in this year. They got Gilmore. They got Cooks. They're making some moves. Now remember, the Cowboys weren't going all in last year. They weren't going all in. And they got 2 big name guys via trade. Still didn't sign any free agents. But they got 2 big name guys via trade, which made us feel better about the whole situation. And then this year, they are supposedly going all in. And on day 1 of free agency, you acquire 0 pieces. You're in the process of losing 5 starters, but you sign nobody. So you lost Tony Pollard, that's done. You lost Biotish, that's done. And Biotish to a division rival with no other center on the roster, no game plan there. So you've lost your center, you've lost your starting running back, you now lost one of your starting rotational defensive ends in Dorrance Armstrong. He also went to Washington to follow Dan Quinn. You're supposedly saying that you're going to part ways with Tyron Smith, so that's 4. And you already told Michael Gallup he can look for a trade, so that's 5. Okay, so what we've accomplished on day 1 of free agency is losing 5 players and getting nobody. Okay, so now apparently we're going into the season with no running back. Oh, they're going to find somebody in the draft. They're always going to find somebody in the draft. And they'll draft some random kid. Like I've been banging the table. Audric Estime from Notre Dame. Needs to be their number 1 priority in the draft. Audric Estime from Notre Dame. They're not going to do that. They never make good decisions. So they'll draft some random kid from somewhere who nobody's ever heard of, and we'll see how that works. They don't have a plan at left tackle. They can't get any of the top left tackles in this draft. None of them are going to fall to them. So we don't have a plan there. There's no great centers that I've been hearing buzz about in this draft. So don't have a plan there. Dorrance Armstrong left. We're not going to pay for a defensive end in free agency, so we don't have a plan there. Didn't bring in any wide receivers. Maybe we'll draft somebody. Doesn't seem like we really have a plan there. Let's really break this down. And if you guys haven't watched the video yesterday, I was talking about free agent moves and everything. Talking about Tony Pollard leaving and what the Cowboys might end up doing in the next couple hours, or what they should do in the next couple hours. And I was saying that because I want them to draft Audric Estime, I think it would be a perfect pairing between Sledgehammer and Flash, between him and Saquon Barkley, and they can both do a little bit of both. Saquon Barkley can be a little bit of the hammer. Estime can be a little bit of the Flash if you actually watch tape on him. So I was beating the table. Perfect pairing. Saquon and Estime can both be every down backs, but they both have strengths in opposite skill sets, but can both do multiple things. So thought that was going to be a perfect pairing. And what happens? The Cowboys don't call Saquon, and now not only did you not get him and you don't have a running back, but now he signed with the Eagles. So now you're going to have to see him twice a year. And it's not twice a year behind the atrocious New York offensive line for an atrocious New York team. No, you're going to see him on a good team. You think he's not an upgrade from Swift? You're out of your mind. Barkley can play. So now you're going to have to deal with him twice a year in Philly, one of your arch rivals. That's great. And there's moves that smart teams do. And one of the things that smart teams do, which I think is honestly one of the reasons that Philly decided to make this move. They thought it would be an upgrade at running back, and they didn't want Dallas to have him. If there was any inclination that Dallas had any interest, Philly was not going to let Barkley end up in Dallas. So they decide, let's go get him. It's good for us, and it's double good for us because then Dallas can't have him. And Dallas should have been thinking the exact same way. He is an upgrade from Tony Pollard. Now, I love Tony Pollard. I think he's a great back, and I thought they should have kept him. But at the same time, if you are going to let him go, okay, we can live with that. Get Barkley, a little bit of an upgrade, more of an every down guy. And you stop Philadelphia from getting him. That's the point here. You stop Philadelphia from getting him. But instead, they sit in their hands and do nothing. And I want to shout out to Mike Fisher and the Fish Report. If you guys are Cowboys fans and you don't watch that, watch Mike Fisher and the Fish Report, because all the stuff you see on ESPN, it's all bullshit. It's all fake. None of it's real. Mike Fisher has been doing this for 30, 40 years as a beat writer for the Cowboys, covering the Cowboys. He has relationships with Jerry. When he tells you information, it's coming directly from the building. He lives next to the Star. It's coming from the building. And he's very rarely, if ever, wrong. Mike Fisher has the inside scoop of everything with Dallas. He has relationships with everybody in that building. And most of the time, he completely contradicts what the media says. Because what the media does, like ESPN, is, oh, Saquon Barkley to Dallas, that's a fun talking point. That's something that gets viewers on TV, but it's not realistic. Derrick Henry to the Cowboys, Derrick Henry to the Cowboys. Yeah, that's a fun talking point. It gets viewers on TV, gets us all talking, oh man, wouldn't that be great if, Derrick Henry was in Dallas? Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, huh? But it's not real. There's no substance there. There's nothing to support that idea. And I was watching Fisher last night, and now I'm going to share the same information with you guys. Derrick Henry is not signing in Dallas. Dallas has no contact with Derrick Henry. And if they did have contact, they had contact a long time ago and figured out that the price tag was more than they were willing to pay. And since then, in the recent world that we live in this moment, the Cowboys have had no contact with Derrick Henry. They're not interested in Derrick Henry. They have no plans or intentions on signing Derrick Henry. It's done. It's over. Barkley's off the board. Josh Jacobs is off the board. They have no plans of signing Derrick Henry. That's not going to happen. And the one move I thought they might make was Aaron Jones when he got released from the Packers yesterday, because I thought maybe he might be more in their bargain bin basement type of deal, and rejoining with McCarthy. I thought McCarthy might push a little bit for that move. Well, he just signed with the Vikings this morning, so they're not getting Aaron Jones either. And the whole thing with this is the Cowboys will never go get free agents. It's against their plan. They won't spend money. And after Jerry said that they're going all in, Steven came out and clarified. He said, we are not going all in, essentially. Because what he said and what he told to Fisher, which is what Fisher reported, which is accurate, we saw the proof yesterday, is the fact that he said, we are willing to sign guys within our financial parameters. We're not going to go outside of our financial parameters to sign guys. We're willing to make deals with guys that fit our budget. What does that sound like to you? The same approach that they have every year. We need a bunch of cheap bargain guys. We won't spend money on anybody. Proof is right there in day one. They did nothing. Zero. Proof's right there. They're looking for cheap basement bargain deals. Catboy is going to make sure that they don't spend money on anything and anybody. That's what they're going to do. That's what they continue to do every offseason. If you guys thought it was going to be different, you're being naive. It was never going to be different. It was never going to change. So let's everybody settle down. The Cowboys aren't going to do anything in free agency. They're going to continue to do what they always do, which is nothing. And there's a lot of names and a lot of people that I could talk about the Cowboys should sign. Bobby Wagner, Patrick McQueen. Make a trade deal for a wide receiver. There's a lot of things that we could talk about here. There's no point. There's no point to even waste time getting into any of these names because they're not going to do any of these deals. The only one that's even remotely speculatively, in theory, even possible would be Bobby Wagner because he's going to take probably a bargain basement discount somewhere. And he might finally, for the first time in his career, be at the price range that Dallas is willing to do. That's where we are. And one of the reasons that this always happens for Dallas every year, well, before I get into that, let me clarify this. Dallas was, or get rid of Tony Pollard. They were in contention for one running back. They apparently were on the phone and they were in contention. They were making some moves, trying to get one running back. Zach Moss. Now, nothing against Zach Moss. He's a good back. He is. He's a good back. You're telling me that we're going to replace Tony Pollard with Zach Moss? I'm supposed to be fired up about Zach Moss? Really? No, I don't want Zach Moss. That's a downgrade from what we already had. I don't want the 45th best running back in the NFL. Like I said, Zach Moss is a good back. He's a great complementary piece. I don't want Zach Moss. He's a complementary back. That's it. But that's the only guy apparently Dallas was interested in, was Zach Moss. And get this, they didn't sign him because he was outside of the price range that they were willing to pay. The deal that he got from the Bengals, because he signed with the Bengals yesterday, so another guy we're not going to get. Didn't really want him anyway, but Cowboys did, and they're not going to get him. And the only reason that they didn't get him, like I said, was financial purposes. They were uncomfortable above a certain point to go get him. You know what he signed for? 2 years, $8 million. Now, for those of you that can do math, you divide 8 by 2, that's 4. Which is completely reasonable for a guy of Zach Moss's caliber. A cheap, nothing deal. You're paying him nothing. And he will be productive and he'll give you yards and you pay him nothing. The Cowboys weren't willing to spend $4 million on somebody they supposedly really wanted. $4 million was too expensive for Dallas. They wouldn't make a move for $4 million. If that's too expensive for them, you guys think they're going to go sign Derrick Henry for 8, 9, 10, 12 a year? They're not willing to spend $4. Derrick Henry is not coming here. And the rest of the free agents floating out there are not coming here. Because there's nobody in this free agent market that's a day one starter caliber player that's signing for $4 million. Well, sorry, that's too expensive. Less than $4 million. It's... When I heard, like I said, I was not a big fan of the Zach Moss interest, but when I heard that the Cowboys wanted him and didn't get the deal done because $4 million exceeded what they were comfortable paying, I put the nail in the coffin, guys. Put the nail in the coffin of Braden's dead. They're not going to sign anybody. this entire period. They ain't going to sign anybody. Yeah. Let's get that clear. Now, what I was about to say earlier, let me get into this. The reason that this keeps happening every year for Dallas is Dallas is the spring break organization. They're the spring breakers. What do I mean by that? Jerry and Steven leave every year this time, and they go on spring break with the grandkids. They're not in the building. They're not doing anything. They're not there. They're not there. They're not in the building. Well, 31 other teams, general managers, owners, front office are all there, coaching staffs, putting in work, looking at film, trying to work out contracts, figuring out who they think is a fit for positions of need, and making free agent moves. The Cowboys are on vacation. They're not even in the building. And Steven's famous quote, oh, well, I got a cell phone and a laptop. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I'm sure on vacation you're spending 8-9 hours of your vacation on the phone talking to agents and trying to work out deals with potential guys you want to sign. Oh, I'm sure. Oh, I'm really sure. And here's the point of this. I have a phone and a laptop. It's total bullshit. That's literally spring break for them. They're unplugged. They're turned off. They're not involved in this, which is why you never see any day one moves from Dallas, and they're not comfortable doing any deals because they're on spring break and they don't want to deal with it, and they don't value free agency anyway. So they said, perfect. We don't care about signing free agents. We don't want to pay any of them. So this is a perfect time to go on spring break because we don't have anything that we need to do. Okay. Well, once again, like I said, if you guys don't watch Fish Report, Mike Fisher, watch it, because this is the type of details and things from in the building that you find out that you otherwise wouldn't know. Tyrann Mathieu was a free agent years back. I believe it was when he left Arizona. And he wanted to come to Dallas. That was his intention, was signing with the Cowboys. So what happened? Day one of free agency, his agent calls and calls and calls and calls and calls. All day long, his agent calls and calls and tries to get in contact with the Cowboys to see if there's any way they could work out a deal to bring him to Dallas. Honey Badger's agent beats down their door trying to get a hold of Jerry or Steven and make a deal. They couldn't get a hold of anybody. They couldn't get in contact with anybody from the Cowboys. And by the end of the day, he decided, well, I guess they're not going to call me back, and he signed someplace else. And why did that happen? Because Jerry and Steven, as usual, I think they were down in Mar-a-Lago or something. I think it was Mar-a-Lago. Down on spring break on the yacht. Down in spring break on the yacht, partying with the grandkids. Meanwhile, which at that point Dallas desperately needed a safety. This is, years and years before the Malik Hooker deals and the curses and the Donovan Wilsons. They had no safety. They had no one back there. This is like the Jeff Heath days. And it might even be before that. Had nobody. And he's beating down their door to get a deal done. And they're too busy on vacation. They don't even know he's trying to get a hold of them. That's why stuff doesn't get done, guys. That's the epitome of this franchise. And that's when we talk about there's a culture problem in Dallas. That's the culture problem. You want your players to show up, give effort, train, put in extra work. Meanwhile, you won't do your job in the front office. Oh, you're going to go on vacation right in the middle of free agency. Tyrann Mathieu, Honey Badger, wants to sign with you. He can't get a hold of you because you're on the yacht in Mar-a-Lago. That's the problem with this organization. That's the problem with Jerry and Steven. They pretend like they're serious about winning. They pretend like they care about being successful. They don't. They want to be relevant. Relevant makes money. As long as they're relevant, they make money. Jerry's famous quote from years ago, I love being 8-8 because that means we're the most exciting team in football. People will tune in every week to watch us win, and all the haters will tune in every week to watch us lose. He liked being 8-8 because it was the best TV ratings. It was the best TV. Every game became bigger because there wasn't any, this crap team, Cowboys are going to blitz them. There was none of that. It was, this is going to be a pretty good game. This Cowboys are 6-7. This team's 5-6. This could be a pretty good game. It made it more interesting. That's all Jerry cares about. Interest, business. He doesn't care about winning. Steven doesn't care about winning. If they cared about winning, like I said, they wouldn't be on fucking vacation right now with free agency going on, saying that they're, I don't want to pay $4 million for a running back that I supposedly want. This is what they do every year, guys. It's not going to change. And the whole thing is, when it comes down to it, the whole thing is this. The free agency for Dallas has been a joke for years. The all-in was a lie. It always was. I'm surprised as many people bought into it as they did. But let's clarify it. If it wasn't a lie, last year, Jerry, you weren't all in. You got Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks. If this is you being all in, don't. Go back to not being all in. If what we saw yesterday and what we're going to continue to see over the next week of free agency is you going all in, just stop. Just don't. Just don't. If you going all in means that you lose a left tackle, a Hall of Fame left tackle, a starting wide receiver, a starting defensive end, your center, and your all-pro running back, if your idea of going all in is we lose 5 players and pick up 0, your idea of going all in is getting worse today than you were yesterday, then just don't bother. Please don't go all in. They were more all in last year than they were this year. It was just a lie. It was a complete lie. And like I said, if this is their idea of going all in, then they're so fucking stupid. Just please don't. Just stop. Don't do it. Jerry and Steven are a joke. And this franchise is never going to be successful with this process of we have to draft everybody. Everybody can come from the draft. We can fill players from the draft. Okay, cool. Like Mike Fisher said. Okay, so you're going to need 4 starters this year. And you're going to get them all from the draft. You're going to draft 4 starters this year? Okay. You didn't get 1 starter last year out of the draft. Think about it, guys. Mizey Smith was not a starter. Schoonmaker was not a starter. Nobody from that draft was a starter. Most of them didn't make the team. Yeah, keep thinking you can just rebuild everything from the draft, Jerry. And they've drafted very well over the years. Very, very well. But, like I said, strike out on guys. You got 0 starters last year in the draft. This year you're going to get 4. That's the rationale of the Cowboys. That's how they think. And it's unreal. As always, guys, raw takes, no apologies. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, peace out.